The morning sun painted the California sky orange when the alien ships appeared over Earth. Captain Jinwoo Park stood on the roof of Camp Pendleton and watched the massive vessels block out the light. The ships were bigger than aircraft carriers and shaped like giant triangles. They made no sound as they floated in the sky like sleeping giants. Jinwoo had been a Marine for 12 years. He fought in 3 wars and saw things that would make normal people wake up screaming. But these alien ships made his heart beat faster. Not from fear, though, from excitement. His radio crackled to life. Marine Command wanted all senior officers at the main hangar immediately. The aliens were coming down to talk. Jinwoo grabbed his rifle and headed inside. He had a feeling this meeting would not go the way the politicians hoped. The hangar was packed with people when Jinwoo arrived. President Kim Hana stood at the front with her advisors. They all wore their best suits and looked nervous. Behind them stood rows of Marines in full combat gear. The soldiers looked calm and ready. Jinwoo took his place with the other captains. Sergeant Lee Min-ho and Corporal Song Yu-jin flanked him. Both were good Marines who had served under Jinwoo for years. Min-ho was built like a tank and could break boards with his bare hands. Yu-jin was smaller but faster than a cat and twice as mean. The hangar doors opened with a loud grinding sound. The alien delegation walked in like they owned the place. The leader was 9 feet tall with purple skin and golden armor that caught the light. His face looked like a mix between a lizard and a shark. Sharp teeth filled his mouth and yellow eyes studied the humans like a predator choosing which prey to eat first. Behind him walked 6 more aliens in similar armor. They carried energy weapons that hummed with power. Their movements were smooth and confident. These were clearly soldiers who had never lost a battle. The alien leader stopped in front of President Kim. When he spoke, his voice was deep and cold, like winter wind. A small device on his chest translated his words into English. Humans. Of Earth, I am Commander Vexitar of the Galactic Federation. Your species will now submit to our authority. You will kneel before the Federation and accept your place as a servant race. The hangar fell silent. Some of the government officials shifted nervously. A few actually started to move toward their knees, but the Marines stayed standing straight and tall. President Kim cleared her throat. Commander, we appreciate you coming to Earth. Perhaps we can discuss terms that work for both our peoples. Vextar's yellow eyes narrowed. There are no terms, human, only submission. Your primitive species will serve the Federation or be destroyed. This is how it has always been done. Jinwoo felt his jaw tighten. He had heard bullies talk like this before, in school playgrounds and enemy camps and dark alleys around the world. The words were different, but the meaning was always the same: submit or die. But Jinwoo Park was a United States Marine. Marines did not submit to anyone. The alien commander's gaze swept across the room until it landed on Jinwoo. The Marine stood with his arms crossed and a small smile on his face. He looked like he was enjoying himself. You there, primitive soldier. Vexitar pointed a clawed finger at Jinwoo. Why do you not kneel before your betters? Jinwoo's smile grew wider. I only kneel for God and my fallen brother's alien. You want me on my knees? Come make me. The hangar became so quiet you could hear people breathing. No one had ever spoken to a Federation commander like this. Not in 300 years of conquest across 40 different worlds. Vextar's purple face darkened with rage. His hand moved to the energy weapon at his side. The other aliens tensed and reached for their own weapons. The Marines behind Jinwoo shifted slightly, getting ready for a fight. What did you say to me? Vextar's voice was now a growl. Jinwoo uncrossed his arms but kept smiling. I said, come make me kneel. You heard me the first time, alien. President Kim stepped forward quickly. Captain Park, please let me handle this, but Jinwoo held up his hand without taking his eyes off the alien commander. Ma'am, with respect, the talking part is over. This is what Marines do. Sergeant Min-ho and Corporal Yu-jin moved up beside their captain. Neither reached for weapons. They just stood there with the same calm confidence their leader showed. 3 Marines facing 7 alien warriors, and they looked like they were having fun. Vextar studied the humans with growing confusion. In all his years of conquest, he had seen fear in the eyes of every species he faced. Some tried to bargain. Some tried to run, some begged for mercy, but none had ever smiled at him like these creatures were doing. Do you not understand what? I am human! Vextar activated his energy weapon. The blade glowed blue-white and hummed with deadly power. I have conquered 40 worlds. I have killed millions who dared oppose the Federation. I wear armor forged in the hearts of dead stars. My bones are strengthened with quantum steel. Jinwu actually laughed. The sound echoed through the hangar, like a bell. That's real nice, alien. I once killed 3 Taliban fighters with my bare hands when I ran out of ammo. Your fancy armor won't help if you don't know how to fight. The other Federation soldiers exchanged worried glances. Their commander had faced down armies and never seen anyone show such complete lack of fear. These humans were either insane or they knew something the aliens did not. You mock the Federation? Vextar raised his energy sword. I will kill you where you stand and use your death to teach the rest of your species proper respect. Jinwu loosened his shoulders and rolled his neck like a boxer getting ready for a match. Behind him, every Marine in the hangar tensed but stayed disciplined. They would wait for their captain's signal. Federation, Jinwu said the word like it tasted bad. You mean that group of bullies who pick on species that can't fight back? Must have been boring, conquering people who gave up without a fight. The alien commander's yellow eyes blazed with fury. No one in galactic history had ever spoken to him this way. He would make an example of this primitive that would be remembered across the galaxy. But as Vextar looked into the human's eyes, he saw something that made his warrior instincts scream danger. These creatures were not afraid. They were excited. They wanted this fight. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Vextar wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. Commander Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. In over 300 years of galactic conquest, no species had ever refused to submit to Federation authority. The pattern was always the same. His ships would arrive. The locals would see their overwhelming power. Fear would take hold. Then came the kneeling and the begging and finally the surrender. But these humans were different. This primitive soldier stood before him without a trace of fear. Instead, the creature looked eager like a predator that had found worthy prey. It made no sense. You dare mock the might of the Federation? Vextar's voice echoed through the hangar, like thunder. I have personally overseen the conquest of 40 worlds. Entire civilizations have fallen before my sword. What makes you think your pathetic species can stand against us? Captain Jinwu Park kept that infuriating smile on his face. 40 worlds of people who gave up without a real fight. That must have been boring as hell. You want to try someone who actually knows how to scrap. The alien commander felt his rage building like a star about to explode. His fellow Federation officers stepped back slightly. They had served under Vextar for decades and knew the signs. Their commander was about to do something violent. But the human Marines moved forward instead of back. Sergeant Minho cracked his knuckles. Corporal Yujin stretched her neck like she was warming up for exercise. They looked like they were getting ready for a party instead of a massacre. Sir, one of the alien soldiers whispered to Vextar. Perhaps we should call for reinforcements. These creatures behave strangely. The commander snarled at his subordinate. I do not need help to deal with primitives. He turned back to the humans. Last chance, soldier. Kneel before the Federation or I will cut you down where you stand. Jinwu looked at his fellow Marines, then back at the alien. You know what's funny? Every bully I ever met said the exact same thing. Big talk before the fighting starts. Let's see how tough you really are, alien. President Kim tried one more time to save the situation. Commander Vextar, please let us discuss this peacefully. There must be some way our peoples can coexist. But Vextar was beyond diplomacy now. This human had insulted him in front of his soldiers, had questioned his strength and mocked his achievements. No Federation commander could let such disrespect go unpunished. The time for words is over, human leader. Vextar drew his energy sword fully. The weapon blazed with power that could cut through tank armor. Your soldier will die as an example to the rest of your species. The other alien warriors activated their weapons as well. Energy rifles hummed to life. Plasma grenades appeared in armored hands. The Federation delegation had come prepared for diplomacy, but they were always ready for war. What they were not prepared for was the human reaction. Instead of fear or panic, the Marines in the hangar began to smile. Not just Jin Woo and his immediate team, but all of them. 40 battle-hardened warriors who had fought in the worst conflicts Earth had to offer looked at the alien weapons like children seeing presents on Christmas morning. "Contact front," Jin Woo called out calmly. It was standard Marine terminology for enemy spotted, but he said it like he was ordering coffee instead of preparing for combat. The Marines instantly spread out using the hangar equipment for cover. Their movements were smooth and professional. No panic, no rushing, just trained soldiers doing what they did best. Vextar felt the first flicker of doubt. These primitives moved with the precision of veteran troops, but that was impossible. His intelligence report said humans were barely out of their Stone Age. They had only recently developed spaceflight. Their weapons were chemical projectiles and simple explosives. "You cannot hide behind your primitive tactics forever," Vextar called out. "Federation armor is immune to your weapons. Our technology is thousands of years ahead of yours." Jin Woo popped his head up from behind a concrete barrier, still smiling. "Technology won't help you if you don't know how to use it properly. And from where I'm sitting, you aliens fight like you've never faced anyone who could fight back." The insult hit home. Federation forces were used to overwhelming technological superiority. They rarely faced organized resistance. Most species submitted when they saw the futility of resistance. The few who fought were quickly crushed by superior firepower. But humans were different. They had been fighting each other for thousands of years. Every advance in human technology had been matched by advances in human tactics. They knew how to fight opponents with better equipment because they did it all the time. Sergeant Min Ho appeared behind one of the alien soldiers like a ghost. The creature's enhanced senses should have detected him, but Min Ho moved with the silence of a hunter. Before the alien could react, Min Ho grabbed his weapon and twisted. The energy rifle flew across the room as the alien cried out in pain. The other Federation soldiers spun toward the sound, but Corporal Yujin was already moving. She had circled around while they were distracted. A flying tackle took down 2 aliens at once. They hit the concrete floor hard, their advanced armor clanking like tin cans. "Impossible," Vextar shouted. "You are primitives. You should not be able to move so fast." Jin Woo emerged from cover and began walking toward the alien commander. He moved with the confident stride of a man who had faced death many times and was not impressed by threats. "That's your problem right there, alien," Jin Woo said conversationally. "You think technology makes you tough, but fighting isn't about having the best gear. It's about knowing how to use what you've got and never giving up when things get ugly." Vextar swung his energy sword in a wide arc, meant to cut the human in half. But Jin Woo was not there anymore. The Marine had dropped into a combat role that carried him under the blade. As he came up, his fist connected with the alien's throat just above the armor line. The blow would have killed a human, but Vextar was tougher than that. Still, it left him gasping and staggering backward. No one had landed a solid hit on him in over 50 years of combat. "What are you?" Vextar wheezed as he tried to catch his breath. Jin Woo straightened up and brushed dust off his uniform. Around the hangar, his Marines were systematically dismantling the alien soldiers with brutal efficiency. The Federation troops had better weapons and armor, but they fought like they had never faced serious opposition. The humans fought like they had been born for war. "We're United States Marines, alien," Jin Woo said with quiet pride. "We're the people other warriors have nightmares about, and this is just the warm-up." Commander Vextar stumbled backward, clutching his throat where the human had struck him. The blow should not have been possible. His armor was designed to stop energy weapons and explosive rounds. A primitive fist should have done nothing. But the pain was real and the shock was even worse. In 3 centuries of conquest, no enemy had ever landed a clean hit on him. These humans moved like nothing he had ever encountered. Around the hangar, the battle was turning into a disaster for the Federation forces. The alien soldiers were trained and experienced, but they were used to fighting enemies who relied on technology. They expected energy shields and plasma weapons and orbital bombardments. Instead, they faced creatures who fought like wild animals, but thought like tactical geniuses. Sergeant Min Ho had taken down 3 alien soldiers without using a single weapon. His grandfather had fought Chinese forces in the Korean War with nothing but a bayonet and raw courage. His father served 3 tours in Vietnam where survival meant being tougher than the jungle itself. Fighting was literally in Min Ho's blood. TY. Aliens had stronger muscles and tougher bones thanks to their advanced genetics. But Min Ho knew exactly where to hit to make strength meaningless. A precise strike to a nerve cluster could drop an enemy twice his size. A properly applied joint lock could snap alien limbs just as easily as human ones. Corporal Yu Jin was having even more success. She had been a wrestler in college before joining the Marines. The sport taught her that technique always beats strength when applied correctly. The alien she was grappling with outweighed her by 100 pounds, but she had him pinned helplessly. To the floor. Get off me, primitive. The alien gasped as Yu Jin applied pressure to his elbow joint. Say please. Yu Jin replied cheerfully as she increased the pressure. The alien's arm made a wet snapping sound. He screamed and stopped struggling. Yu Jin released him and moved toward her next target with the fluid grace of a predator. President. Kim and her advisors had taken cover behind an overturned table. They watched in amazement as their Marines systematically dismantled soldiers from an advanced galactic civilization. It should have been impossible, but the evidence was right in front of them. How are they doing this? Whispered Defense Secretary Park Sung-min. They're Marines. President Kim replied simply. This is what they do. The truth was more complex than that. Humans had evolved differently than most species in the galaxy. While other races developed intelligence and technology, to avoid conflict, humans had done the opposite. They used their growing intelligence to become better at fighting. For thousands of years, humans fought each other with increasing skill and brutality. Every generation learned new ways to kill and survive. The weak died young. The strong passed on their knowledge. Over time, this created a species of natural-born warriors. Most alien races evolved from prey animals. They developed flight responses and herd mentalities. When faced with overwhelming force, their instinct was to submit or flee. But humans evolved from persistence hunters who chased mammoth across continents. Their instinct when faced with danger was to attack. Commander Vextar was learning this lesson the hard way. He swung his energy sword again, but Jinwoo ducked under the blade and stepped inside the alien's reach. At close range, the sword was useless. The alien tried to grab him, but Jinwoo slipped away like smoke. Stand still and fight me properly, Vextar roared in frustration. Why would I do that? Jinwoo replied as he landed another punch to the alien's ribs. Fighting fair is for sports. This is war. The concept was alien to Vextar in more ways than one. Federation forces relied on superior technology and overwhelming numbers. Their battles were usually one-sided affairs that ended quickly. They had rules and protocols and expected behaviors. Humans had no such limitations. They fought dirty when they had to. They used every advantage they could find. They turned the enemy's strength against them and exploited every weakness. Most importantly, they never gave up no matter how bad the odds looked. Jinwoo demonstrated this by grabbing a wrench from a nearby tool cart. The simple metal tool became a weapon in his hands. He swung it at Vextar's weapon hand and connected with a solid clang. The energy sword went flying across the hangar. No. Vextar stared at his empty hand in disbelief. This cannot be happening. You are primitives. Your species should be kneeling before us. Jinwoo smiled that maddening smile again. Maybe we would kneel if you were actually tough. But you're not. You're just bullies who pick on people who can't fight back. Well, surprise, alien. You found someone who can. The Marine captain kicked Vextar behind the knee. The alien commander's leg buckled and he crashed to the concrete floor. For the first time in his long military career, the mighty Federation warrior was on his knees before an enemy. Around the hangar, the last alien soldiers were surrendering. They had never faced opponents like these humans. The primitives fought with a combination of skill and savagery that was completely outside Federation experience. But what disturbed the aliens most was not the humans' fighting ability. It was their attitude. The Marines were enjoying themselves. They laughed when they dodged energy blasts. They grinned when they disarmed enemy soldiers. These creatures actually loved combat. "What kind of species are you?" Vextar asked from his position on the floor. Jinwoo looked down at the defeated alien commander. "We're the kind that's been fighting wars since we learned to make fire. We've spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other with everything from sharp sticks to nuclear weapons. We're persistence predators who never learned when to quit." The Marine captain keyed his radio. "Command, this is Park. Alien delegation has been neutralized. No friendly casualties. Requesting instructions for prisoner handling." As Jinwoo waited for orders, he kept his eyes on Vextar. The alien was studying him with a mixture of fear and fascination. Like a prey animal trying to understand the predator that had just brought down his pack. "You have made a terrible mistake, human," Vextar said quietly. "The Federation has fleets that can destroy your entire world. When they learn what happened here, they will come with overwhelming force." Jinwoo's smile never wavered. "Let them come. We've been fighting each other for so long we've gotten pretty good at it. Maybe it's time we tried fighting someone else for a change." The alien commander felt a chill run down his spine. These humans had just defeated Federation soldiers with primitive weapons and bare hands. What would they be capable of if they ever got access to advanced technology? For the first time in galactic history, a Federation force had been defeated by primitives, and the primitives were asking for more. Admiral Zorkak stood on the bridge of his flagship high above Earth and stared at the battle report in his clawed hands. The words made no sense. Elite Federation soldiers defeated by primitives. Commander Vextar taken prisoner. The entire delegation captured without inflicting a single casualty on the enemy. It had to be a mistake. Some kind of communication error or computer malfunction. In 300 years of galactic expansion, the Federation had never suffered such a complete defeat, especially not from a species that had barely developed faster than light travel. "Play the recording again," Zorkax ordered his aide. The holographic display showed the interior of the human military facility. The Admiral watched as his best soldiers were systematically dismantled by creatures who fought like animals, but moved with surgical precision. The humans used no advanced weapons, no energy shields or plasma rifles, just their bodies and whatever tools they could grab. But what disturbed Zorkax most was the humans' expressions. They were smiling, actually enjoying themselves as they fought for their lives against superior technology and overwhelming odds. The Admiral had seen many species fight desperately when cornered, but never with such obvious pleasure. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the human government." The main screen flickered to life, showing a conference room filled with human officials. At the center sat an older human female who appeared to be their leader. Behind her stood the Marine who had defeated Vextar, still wearing his torn uniform, like a badge of honor. Admiral Zorkax, the human leader, spoke with surprising calmness. "I am President Kim Hana of the United Earth Government. I believe we need to discuss the current situation." Zorkax studied the human female. She spoke softly, but there was steel in her voice. And that primitive soldier behind her looked like he was hoping the negotiations would fail so he could fight more aliens. "Human leader," Zorkax replied formally. "Your species has committed an act of war against the Galactic Federation. Commander Vextar was here under diplomatic protection. His capture will not be tolerated." Captain Jinwoo stepped forward with that same infuriating smile. "Diplomatic protection? Is that what you call threatening to kill people who won't kneel? On my planet we call that being a bully." The Admiral's yellow eyes narrowed. "You dare speak to me, primitive? I command a fleet of 200 ships capable of reducing your world to ash. Your pathetic species should be begging for mercy, too." 100 ships. Jinwoo whistled appreciatively. "That's a lot of targets. How many Marines you think it would take to capture a ship that size, Sergeant?" Sergeant Minho appeared in the camera frame. "Hard to say, Captain. Depends on how soft the crew is. If they fight like Vextar, maybe a dozen Marines per ship." The casual way the humans discussed capturing Federation starships made Zorkax's blood run cold. These primitives had no concept of the technology gap between them. They should be terrified of orbital bombardment and energy weapons. Instead, they talked like they were planning a hunting expedition. President Kim raised her hand for silence. Admiral, let me be clear about something. We did not start this conflict. Your commander threatened to kill our people if they did not submit. In human culture, that is considered an act of aggression. The Federation brings order to chaos. Zorkax replied stiffly. Every species that has joined us has benefited from our protection and guidance. Your world will be no different. Protection from what? Captain Park asked. From you. That's like the Mafia offering protection from themselves. Thanks, but we'll pass. The human military officer's casual dismissal of Federation power was beyond Zorkax's understanding. Did these creatures not comprehend what they were facing? The Federation controlled thousands of star systems. Their technology was millennia ahead of Earth's primitive capabilities. You speak of things you do not understand, human, the Admiral said coldly. The galaxy is filled with dangers your species cannot imagine. Without Federation protection, you will be destroyed by the first hostile force you encounter. Jinwoo laughed out loud. Hostile force, Admiral. We've been the hostile force on this planet for the last 10,000 years. We've fought more wars than you've probably even heard of. We perfected the art of killing each other long before you showed up. The alien officer studied the human's face, looking for signs of deception or bravado. But all he saw was calm confidence. Like a predator, discussing its hunting techniques. Your species fights among itself, Zorkax asked carefully. Constantly, President Kim replied. Until yesterday. Today we have a common enemy for the first time in human history. Every nation on Earth has agreed to work together against the Federation. Threat. The implications hit Zorkax like a plasma bolt. A species that had been fighting internal wars for millennia would have tactics and strategies the Federation had never encountered. They would know how to fight against superior technology because they did it all the time among themselves. Worse yet, if the humans had unified against the Federation threat, that meant billions of natural-born warriors working toward a single goal. The Admiral had never faced anything like that in his long career. You cannot hope to stand against Federation might, Zorkax said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. We have conquered 40 different species. Each thought they could resist us. All knelt before our power in the end. Captain Park's expression grew serious for the first time. Admiral, let me explain something about humans. We're persistence predators. That means when we start hunting something, we don't stop until it's dead. You made the mistake of making us your prey. Now you're going to learn what happens when the prey decides to hunt back. The screen went dark, leaving Admiral Zorkax staring at his own reflection. Around him, the bridge crew whispered nervously among themselves. The confidence that had carried them across the galaxy was cracking. For the first time in Federation history, they had encountered a species that did not fear them. Worse, they had found opponents who seemed eager to fight despite impossible odds. The Admiral had studied the military records of dozens of conquered worlds, but none had prepared him for creatures like these humans. Sir, his tactical officer reported. Long-range sensors are detecting movement on the planet's surface. The humans appear to be mobilizing their military forces. How many troops? Zorkax asked. Conservative estimate puts human military strength at 200 million active personnel, sir. That number is growing rapidly as they activate reserve units. The Admiral felt his heart skip a beat. 200 million soldiers. Even primitive. Ones armed with chemical weapons could be dangerous in such numbers, especially if they fought with the same skill and determination shown in the hangar battle. Prepare the fleet for orbital bombardment, Zorkax ordered reluctantly. If these humans will not submit, they must be destroyed before they become a threat to galactic stability. But as the Admiral gave the order, he could not shake the memory of those human faces, the way they smiled as they fought, like they had been waiting their whole lives for a worthy enemy. Admiral Zorkax was about to learn that there was nothing more dangerous in the galaxy than humans who had something to fight for. Meeting Admiral Zorkax prepared to end the human problem permanently. His fleet of 200 Federation warships moved into bombardment position above Earth. Each vessel carried enough firepower to level a continent. Together they could reduce the entire planet to molten rock within hours. The Admiral had done this before to 12 different worlds whose species proved troublesome. It was always regrettable but necessary. The galaxy needed order, and the Federation provided it. Species that could not accept their place in the galactic community had to be removed. But as the fleet powered up their planet-killing weapons, something impossible happened. Earth launched fighters. At first, Zorkax thought it was a joke. Primitive, atmospheric craft against star destroyers equipped with shields and energy weapons. The human pilots would be vaporized before they got within weapons range. It would be a mercy compared to what the orbital bombardment would do to their world. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with confusion in his voice. "The human fighters are not following standard attack patterns. They appear to be using some kind of pack-hunting formation." The Admiral studied the tactical display with growing concern. The human aircraft moved in groups of 4 to 6 ships, but they did not maintain the rigid formations used by civilized species. Instead, they flowed like water around the Federation vessels seeking weak points and opportunities. Leading the first squadron was Lieutenant Colonel Park So-young, flying a fighter painted with a skull and crossbones. Her radio transmission cut through the static of space like a blade. "Federation Fleet, this is Ghost Leader. You have 30 seconds to leave our solar system, or we will consider you hostile and respond accordingly." Zorkax could not believe what he was hearing. A single primitive fighter threatening a fleet that could destroy worlds. The audacity was beyond his understanding. "Destroy them all," he ordered. The Federation gunners opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams filled space like deadly lightning. Plasma missiles streaked toward the human fighters in waves. The primitive craft should have been turned to vapor in seconds. Instead, they danced. Lieutenant Colonel Park rolled her fighter in a corkscrew pattern that took her between 2 energy beams with inches to spare. Her wingman followed so close behind her that their ships almost touched. The formation split apart at the last second as missiles passed harmlessly between them. The human pilots fought like nothing the Federation had ever encountered. They did not fly defensively like civilized species trying to avoid damage. They flew aggressively seeking combat like predators hunting prey. Their movements were so unpredictable that the alien targeting computers could not lock onto them. "Impossible," Zorkax breathed. "No atmospheric fighter should be able to maneuver like that in space." What the Admiral did not understand was that human pilots learned to fly by fighting each other. For decades, they had engaged in aerial combat that pushed the limits of what machines and bodies could endure. They were trained by countless hours of dogfighting against opponents who knew all their tricks. Lieutenant Colonel Park dived her fighter straight at the flagship's bridge. The alien gunners tracked her approach but could not believe she would attempt something so suicidal. She fired missiles at point-blank range before pulling away at the last possible second. The Federation bridge shook under the impact. Alarms blared as systems overloaded. The primitive missiles had punched through shields that should have stopped them easily. "How did they penetrate our defenses?" the tactical officer shouted over the noise. "They fired from inside our shield. Perimeter." Zorkax realized with growing horror. No sane pilot would attempt such a maneuver. But humans were not sane by galactic standards. They were willing to risk everything for victory. The concept of acceptable losses was foreign to species that had evolved from prey animals. But humans understood that sometimes winning required sacrifice. As the space battle raged above Earth's surface, the real war was just beginning below. The Federation had sent landing forces to secure major population centers before the bombardment began. It was standard procedure designed to capture any useful resources or technologies before planetary sterilization. What they found, waiting for them, was every human military force on the planet working together for the first time in history. Master Sergeant Kim Dong-soo crouched in a bombed-out building in Seoul watching Federation dropships land in the city square. He had fought in 3 different wars and knew how to turn urban terrain into a killing field. Around him, Korean Marines prepared positions that would make the aliens pay for every meter of ground. But he was not alone. In London, British SAS operators set up sniper nests overlooking Federation landing zones. Russian Spetsnaz teams prepared ambushes in the ruins of Moscow. American Green Berets coordinated with Japanese self-defense forces to turn Tokyo into a maze of death traps. For the first time in human history, every warrior culture on Earth was united against a common enemy. Chinese soldiers fought alongside Taiwanese commandos. Israeli defense forces shared intelligence with Palestinian fighters. Indian and Pakistani special forces coordinated joint operations. The Federation troops that landed faced something they had never encountered before. Humans, who had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. Every tactic had been tested in the crucible of human conflict. Every strategy had been refined through countless battles against equally skilled opponents. Sergeant Kim watched through his scope as alien soldiers advanced down the street in perfect formation. They moved with the confidence of troops who had never faced serious opposition. Their energy weapons hummed with power. Their armor gleamed with advanced technology. He smiled and keyed his radio. "All units, this is Dragon Leader. Party starts in 3-2-1 mark." The street exploded into chaos as dozens of hidden positions opened fire simultaneously. The Federation soldiers found themselves caught in crossfires from multiple directions. Their advanced sensors had not detected the human positions because the Marines were using techniques. 6 months after the Federation first arrived at Earth, the war was over. But not in the way Admiral Zorkax had expected when he ordered the invasion of the primitive human world. The Federation had not conquered Earth. Instead, Earth had conquered the Federation. It started when human forces stopped playing defense and went on the attack. Using captured Federation technology and reverse-engineered weapons, human fleets began striking back at alien worlds. But they did not come as conquerors seeking to build an empire. They came as liberators freeing species that had been enslaved for centuries. The first world they hit was Veltara, home to a rabbit-like species that had been conquered by the Federation 300 years earlier. The Veltarans had long ago given up hope of freedom. Their warrior caste had been eliminated generations ago, and their people had been bred into submission. When human Marines landed on their world, the Veltarans expected new masters. Instead, they found something they had forgotten existed: soldiers who fought for others instead of themselves, warriors who asked nothing in return for their sacrifice except the chance to fight more battles. Colonel Jinwoo Park, now promoted, after his role in the first battle, stood in the ruins of a Federation garrison and watched former slaves celebrate their freedom. Around him, Korean and American Marines worked alongside British commandos and Russian special forces. The human coalition had grown stronger with every battle. Colonel called out Veltara, a former slave who had become the leader of her people's resistance movement. "Why do you do this? You could rule us all. Your warriors are unstoppable. Your technology now rivals our former masters. Why do you free us instead of conquering us?" Jinwoo smiled the same smile he had worn in that hangar 6 months ago. "Because that's not who we are. We fight bullies. We don't become them. Every human knows what it feels like to be pushed around by someone stronger. We won't do that to others." The concept was difficult for the Veltarans to understand. In their experience, strength meant domination. The powerful ruled the weak because that was the natural order. But humans had a different perspective shaped by thousands of years of fighting each other as equals. President Kim Hana arrived on Veltara, aboard one of the new human starships built from Federation technology. She had come to establish the first embassy of what was now called the Human Defense Alliance. Behind her walked representatives from every Earth nation united for the first time in human history. The ceremony took place in the same building where Federation governors had once issued orders to their slaves. Now it hosted the signing of a treaty between equals. The Veltarans would be free to govern themselves with human protection against any who would enslave them again. "This is just the beginning," President Kim told the assembled crowd. "Every species in this galaxy deserves the right to determine their own destiny. The age of Federation tyranny is over." As she spoke, similar scenes were playing out across dozens of worlds. Human forces had struck deep into Federation space, liberating one enslaved species after another. But instead of replacing alien oppressors with human ones, they established local governments and moved on to the next target. The Federation fleet that had once threatened Earth was scattered and broken. Admiral Zorkax himself had been captured when human boarding parties stormed his flagship. He now sat in a prison cell on Earth wondering how everything had gone so wrong. The answer came to him in the form of his former prisoner, Commander Vex-Tar. The alien warrior had been treated well during his captivity and had learned much about human culture. When he was finally released, he chose to remain on Earth rather than return to Federation space. "You were right, Admiral," Vex-Tar said as he visited his former commander. "These humans are primitives, but not in the way we thought." Zorkax looked up from his cell. "What do you mean?" "They are primitive in that they have not forgotten what we forgot long ago. They remember what it means to fight for something greater than yourself. We conquered worlds to build an empire. They fight wars to protect others." The former Federation commander considered this. During his months of captivity, he had observed human behavior and found it contradictory. They were capable of incredible violence but used it only against those who threatened the innocent. They possessed technology that could destroy worlds but used it to protect the weak. "They offered me a position in their defense alliance," Vex-Tar continued. "They want former Federation officers to help them understand alien cultures and technologies. They do not seek revenge against their former enemies." This was perhaps the most alien concept of all to Zorkax. In his experience, victory meant subjugation of the defeated. But humans seemed genuinely interested in redemption rather than retribution. They wanted to build something better, rather than simply tear down what came before. The transformation of the galaxy continued at a pace that stunned observers. World after world threw off Federation rule and joined the Human Defense Alliance. But the alliance was nothing like the empire it replaced. Members governed themselves and contributed what they could to the common defense. Some species, like the warlike Kethavari, became human allies in combat. Their natural aggression, combined with human tactical knowledge, created formidable strike forces. Other races, like the intellectual Mordecai, contributed research and technology to improve alliance capabilities. But the most important change was philosophical. For the first time in galactic history, a dominant power was teaching others to be strong rather than keeping them weak. Human military advisors trained alien forces not to serve human interests, but to defend their own worlds. Colonel Park stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship watching stars wheel past in hyperspace. They were heading to the former Federation capital world to establish the new galactic government. Not a human government, but a council where every member species had an equal voice. "Sir," reported his aide, Lieutenant Lee Jun-ho. "Long range. Sensors detect a large fleet approaching the capital. Looks like the remaining Federation loyalists are making their last stand." Jinwoo nodded calmly. "Signal the fleet. All ships prepare for combat. Time to finish what we started." As the human-led coalition dropped out of hyperspace above the Federation homeworld, they faced the largest alien fleet ever assembled. Thousands of warships filled space around the planet. It should have been an impressive sight, but Jinwoo felt only pity. These aliens still did not understand what they were fighting. They thought superior numbers and technology would win the day. But humans had learned long ago that wars were won by the side with the stronger will to fight. The final battle of the Federation War lasted only 6 hours. When it was over, the Alliance fleet held the field, and the Federation government had surrendered. But instead of conquest, the humans offered something the galaxy had never seen before, a chance to build something better together. 1 year later, former Federation Admiral Zorkax walked through the gardens of New Geneva, the capital city of the HFY Human Defense Alliance. He now served as an advisor, helping former enemies learn to work together. It was not the fate he had expected, but it was better than he deserved. Nearby, Colonel Park played with children from a dozen different species, all living together in peace. The sight would have been impossible under Federation rule, where alien races were kept separate to prevent unity. "Still smiling, I see," Zorkax observed as he approached the human officer. Jinwoo looked up and grinned. "Always, Admiral. Life's too short not to enjoy it." The alien commander studied his former enemy with something approaching understanding. These humans had not conquered the galaxy through superior technology or overwhelming force. They had done it by showing others what freedom looked like, and they were still ready to fight anyone who tried to take that freedom away.